Welcome to NHP's TemCurve 6 Selectivity Analysis Software Demonstration. I'm going to show you how easy it is to use TemCurve 6. You might want to begin with a transformer, so you would choose the transformer size of your choice. You have the option of changing the impedance level, and the software is automatically calculating the prospective fault current at that point of the installation. You may want to have an incomer main switch, in which case it would probably be an ACB. You'd need to type in the appropriate load to do so. You can choose from a number of different overcurrent relays, which come with the NHP air circuit breakers. TemCurve 6 has some smarts built, and whenever a value is in red, that would indicate that there is a particular problem with the design, and clicking on the message box reveals that the reason why the fault at 30 kA is in red is because it exceeds the upstream fault level. The software is attempting to do some fault level calculations, so we need to add in some cable. We might use a length of 5 meters, and for that size of transformer you would probably want, depending on your installation, certain size cables. To add another circuit breaker to the switchboard, simply click on the appropriate circuit breaker icon, type in your load, choose the type of trip unit that you'd like. The software automatically chooses the circuit breaker based on the fault level of the board in which the circuit breaker is going. You can build up circuit breakers under circuit breakers in various switchboards. Software gives you the ability of choosing different names for the different switchboards. You can go back and edit that. Let's call that switchboard DB02. The fault level calculations, you don't always need to make use of that aspect of the software. You can just nominate the fault current at that particular point in the installation, like so. The software is set up so that there's 3 steps. You build up your single line diagram as we've been doing, then you would go to look at the curves and you'd make your adjustments as necessary, in which case we need to make an adjustment to the curves because the curves are overlapping. So the best choice would probably is to change the settings of circuit breaker number 2. To do so, you'd click on the settings box as I've done, and then change the characteristics of that circuit breaker to suit. You'll notice that in the T-30 millisecond area and below, that the curves are overlapping. This does not indicate that there is no selectivity, but for that region you need to refer to the selectivity and cascade data values. These are found in our catalogues, in the Part C catalogue, but we've also included them into the software. And so in this particular case, between these 2 circuit breakers, the E250NJ downstream, which has a fault rating of 25 kA, and the upstream circuit breaker, which is an E630NE, which is a fault rating of 36 kA, we know that we have selectivity to 25 kA and cascading to 36 kA between these particular breakers from our test results. So we can be confident with this arrangement because the curves aren't overlapping in the overload section of the curves, there's no overlap in the short circuit area of the curves, and from our selectivity and cascade data values we can have confidence that we have selectivity to the relevant values, in which case we have a fault level of 25 kA at the downstream switchboard. We can be confident that we have selectivity to this area. In which case we would then go and print off the report. As you can see, we have the time current curves followed by the details of each breaker one by one. And our selectivity study is complete. Now there's a few other features that I'd like to show you. We have the ability of inserting motor starting selection, and we can see here that having chosen a particular size motor, the software will suggest the contactor and overload to suit to give you type 2 coordination. you may like to have a look at that, and you'll see here that we've got the time current curve of the relevant overload and also the short circuit protection, which is provided by the upstream circuit breaker. Often there are multiple of the similar type device, so instead of having to do each one by one, just right click and go copy circuit fitting, and you can have multiple copies of the same one. Oftentimes you'll have a switchboard made which is comprised of circuit breakers, so instead of having to do that all in one go, we have the ability to make a lot of circuit breakers and RCDs in the one board, all in one go, instead of having to draw them one by one, which I'm demonstrating at the moment. As you can see, we've got a rather large switchboard full of miniature devices. One of the nice things about TemCurve 6 is having built up your single line diagram, you can produce a bill of materials report, which I'm demonstrating now, and so you can see that that's a very helpful way of documenting your project. You also have the ability of a single line diagram, which the software goes page by page for the switchboards, and you can see there that we've got the single line diagram page by page for the circuit breakers and their switchboards. Another nice feature of TemCurve 6 is the ability to export the single line diagram to AutoCAD, and from a documentation point of view, that speeds up the process significantly. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's just a bit of a appetizer for some of the functionality of TemCurve 6. We hope you now found that helpful.